Here at Be Freaking Awesome, we believe that life is too short to be anything less than extraordinary. Join us as we explore what it means to live authentically, grow continuously, and have a blast while doing it. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of Be Freaking Awesome. I am one of your hosts, Sami here with Angela Belford, and today we are going to be digging in deep and talking about mom guilt. Ooh, so fun. The most exciting and delicious and joyful topic we could ever have. I'm just kidding. We are joined by a very special guest, Dr. Juhi. Thank you so much for being here with us. We're so excited to dive into this conversation.
Thank you for having me today on your show, and we're going to be freaking awesome on this
Yeah, we
are. Talking about one of the topics that, we kind of just walk around with, which is mom guilt as soon as we become a mom. And I help moms hold their boundaries without feeling like a bad guy. Because boundaries, they promote kindness and they build resilient kids.
I like that.
Oh my
How
goodness.
did you get into this work? Tell me a little bit more about your story.
Yeah, so I am just kind of going back to like where I started. I've been a practicing pediatrician in the community for about almost 20 years now. I am a first generation immigrant. I am currently in the season of raising two teens in my own home, a newly minted 13-year-old and a high school senior about to, spread her wings out. The reason I got into this work of parent coaching is because I was struggling with my own teen, and then I was, there were slam doors, eye rolls. I'd just be like, oh, you're fine. This is, you're stronger than this. You got this. And I didn't know any better. I was looking for tools. And then I stumbled upon a parent coaching certification, got myself certified. Through that, I transformed my parenting completely. I was connecting better. It was awkward initially because that's not something we're built with. We're not born with these things. And that was one of the things that, mom guilt kind of is like, oh, I'm a mom, I should know this. I'm a mom. I've got to get this right, because if I don't get it right, what kind of children am I raising? I'm going to be raising these failures. I'm going to be, so like all of those emotions just kind of like it's a cycle.
Right.
And to break out of that cycle was so important for me because it was just so unhealthy for me. I'd be like, let me rush through these things and then I'll spend all this time with my kids. I was forgetting that those micro moments are so important. Like, just kind of pause, breathe. It's okay for them to eat mac and cheese. The culture that I come from and the way that I was raised was like fresh cooked meals 3 times a day sort of thing. And, I'm a physician. My husband's a physician. We are a busy household. And then we've got all these activities. And, it was just like a nonstop thing that I was kind of just hamster wheeling in. And so it was really freeing to actually break that cycle and come out of it. And my daughter at that time was a teenager. Now I have a son who's also a teenager. But my daughter, I was getting her feedback and she was like, yeah, everything is getting better in terms of our communication, but everything seems scripted. And then but she knew that I'm working on this, right? And her feedback was really important for me because I didn't want to just go off on a tangent on myself and be like, okay, now this relationship is worse than where we started.
Yeah.
And so she was like, no, this is great, but it's scripted. And I was like, yeah, there's 3 stages of, change. You go from awkward to mechanical to natural. So I'm in the awkward phase, and I have to think about what I'm saying, how I'm saying, my tone, my words, right? And then it went into mechanical where it was like less of like artificial sounding person. And then from there it went into natural. And now it's natural. Now I'm not gonna say it's perfect. I'm not gonna say that there aren't moments where I'm just like, oh my God, what am I doing? Or what is she doing? Or, things like that. But I know that our relationship is grounded in depth,
Mm.
in roots that we know that we trust each other, that, there is that opportunity to fall back on if she needs to. Teenagers they're going to fly, they're going to soar as high as they can until they get scared. The moment they get scared is they're going to need a fallback.
Mm.
That, hey, I made a mistake. I need someone to catch me. Right. But if as a parent, we are the ones who are like, oh, you're lazy. Oh, you're so like messy. Oh, that your room is so chaotic. Like, I don't know how you can function in this room, type of thing. Then you're missing the point of connection.
Okay.
You're missing the presence.
I got to pause you because you have just given us like a whole episode in like 4 minutes and my brain is overflowing for just a few minutes. Okay. So I'm going to back us up just a little bit.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
Number one, when we start out on a journey of change, the first step is awkward. And I think there's so many people. I love that point that you make because there's so many people that is like, this is just weird. I don't care if we're talking
Yeah.
about our marriage relationship, we try something new, if we're trying something new with a friendship. I love that you say the very first step is awkward and we have to just stay in it. It feels weird and bumpy and hard. And then it's a little mechanical, which I can remember when you learn a new skill, a communication skill, like so what I hear you saying is,
Correct.
right? And like we just have to, like my husband and I went to marriage therapy and there were new sentences and they felt so
Yes.
awkward and weird and they were mechanical and you felt very robotic. And then we have to have the persistence. We have to have the wherewithal. We have to lean in long enough for it to become natural. And any skill, if we think back, and I think we've had an episode on this, Sammy, where we talk about kind of the stages of learning and anything that you're doing, whether it's learning how to use Excel or how to use Outlook, or it's learning how to do your job, all of us go through those stages. I love that you bring that up because I don't think it's just for teenagers. I also really like the labels that you put on them because I sometimes get in my head when I'm explaining things to people and I will get really technical and jargony. And so I have talked about this and I've actually very recently taught this at a training that I talked about the stages of competence. Yes. And that there is unconscious incompetence, stage one, conscious incompetence. It's where you know you can't do the thing. Then conscious competence, which I describe like when you start driving and you're like, yep, I can do this. Hands at 10 and 2, look in the rear view mirror, side view mirrors, look at the road, hands at 10 and 2, look at the rear view mirror, look at the side view mirrors, look at the road. You're just constantly repeating those things. And then unconscious competence, where it is that natural. Anyway, I like awkward, mechanical, and natural
So much
because
better.
that feels so much more than me being like, let's just get you to conscious competence. And that makes total sense. Some people, that type of terminology works, and some people are like, Sammy, I think you've lost me.
I lost you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's too many C's in this.
But it is makes sense. And
Yes.
and if you don't
Yeah.
stick with it in awkward and mechanical, you won't get to natural. Like
Yeah.
you don't just wake up one morning with natural. And I think even, I talk about with my kids a lot, a grounding phrase that I use for myself is they didn't come with instruction manuals. And so when I'm learning new things, I did not leave the hospital with an instruction manual on how to take care of a baby, a toddler, a whatever is the stage between toddler and teenagehood that you call that. I don't know what you call that.
Childhood.
That stage. And then adolescence and teenagehood, there's no manual for those things. There's just lots of shared learning and people who've gone before you to learn from them, read their books, do the things, but there's not one set of like, here are the rules, here's the do's and don'ts
Well, and
to
I
have
would
a
Yeah.
great
say,
time.
I would say even those people that have some manual, like I remember my youngest would yell at me all the time, "I'm not Sammy," and I'm like, I have one other time had a 14-year-old girl, and this method worked. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
learn a new method. And so even if you know and you have some idea of what to do, each kid is different. I was different.
Yes.
I was more tired. So anyway, I love, love, love that whole
Yeah.
concept.
Yes. Yeah. No, I love that you said that because, we as parents are also evolving as we're raising
Mhm.
different kids. So like our
Yes.
firstborn got a different set of parents. I mean, they're both
Yeah.
they're both
Yes.
my kids, but I'm telling you, they are receiving me as a different mom
Yep.
just because my personal growth journey has kind of taken a lane. It's kind of picked a direction now. Versus like when I was a young mother, my firstborn got that version of me. Then
Mm,
she got the version of me that I was dealing with another child at the same time. Now, both my kids have a version where I'm dealing with two teenagers at the same time.
Right.
So, as a no two siblings have the same parents,
yeah.
honestly, if you look at it that way. And then in terms of the manual, I would say yes. I mean, there's hundreds of parenting books,
Yep.
right? There's so many podcasts. There's so many parenting books. There is no size fits all in
That's
this.
correct.
And
Mhm.
that's why we need the coaching and the support and the guidance, because this is going to be an individual custom type of approach. It's like, what do I do? Like, how do I navigate this particular situation with my teenager? Is very different from like reading a book.
Yep.
And that's very valuable. And also, you get like 18 summers with your child.
Mm,
Um, if you start reframing things like that, automatically you're going to come up with empathy. And empathy is so empowering. It just kind of gives you a different perspective on the way you look at these day-to-day things you know
See,
Mm,
I automatically get to anxiety and pressure when I hear the
mhm,
18 summers comment. I only have 18 summers to get this right. Like, that's not even that many tries. And sure,
mhm.
I could argue that the first, 1 to 3 are probably my practice rounds because they may not really remember it that well. But like,
mhm.
oh man, I feel pressure when I hear that's where I start to get to mom guilt, actually, is when I start thinking about that. Like, oh no, what if
Well,
I get it
Yeah.
wrong?
I'm gonna stop both of you and say, yes, maybe you have 18 summers, but as someone whose youngest child left after 18 summers and was not happy with me, and now we have had the opportunity to build a phenomenal relationship where I would say I rank in one of her top 10 best friends. And she is fast becoming one of my close friends. Um, don't let the mom guilt get to you, because I'm telling you,
Yes.
18 summers is not the end. It is when you have the
It's
very most influence. I will agree with
Yeah.
that. But just as somebody who's on the other side, there is still hope, and don't just take it as a way to take every day
Yeah.
and
And
treasure
when
it.
I say 18 summers, it's not from a point of view of, inducing anxiety, or not from a point of view of, it will be too late after
Right.
that. It's from a point of just offering a reframe
Yep.
to, the moments, like say they're, a busy working mom who's kind of guilty of like, I'm not able to spend enough time. Oh my gosh, I only have these 18 years, or I'm just going to ruin my child. A reframe would be to like get home, and then spend, 5 meaningful minutes with your child.
Mhm.
And that is plenty to form that connection. Kids don't need you to be helicoptering over them all the time. They just need those landing moments where they can build that connection and trust, so that they know that they can fall back on you. Otherwise it's going to be like, oh, my mom can't handle that. If it's like,
Mm.
Mm.
if and then that is the questionable confidence. And they need that anchor in the early years of life, and then they need us to be their lighthouse in the later years of life.
I love that.
Um, if we just kind of continue to like hold on to them too tight, then they're just going to try to like flutter out.
Mhm.
So you want to be able to let go or hold on, but all of that will come with self-care and self-compassion.
Mm.
And the more we do that, the more we fill our cups, the more we can give to our loved ones, not just kids, but our spouses, our family, and our friends.
Mm.
And so that's kind of when, we talk about it, we're talking about it from a point of like, how can we take care of this in the moment so that we can continue to kind of build up the reps, like brick by brick, we're building up the relationship.
So, would it sounds like what you're saying is that self-care for yourself and that self-compassion
Mhm.
probably is the good place to start. Why is that where we start, and what does that look like for somebody? Kind of a two-part question.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's so important. And that's, something that most moms miss. They're just like, oh, we're just going to do everything for everyone. And then that's my role as a mom. And I was there. I was 100% there. And the way that I was able to get out of that was, if I take care of myself, then it's going to show a positive energy in my relationship. So, isn't it better for me to be more present and more positive and more patient in my relationship with my child? Because I can fall back and say, yes, I did that 30 minutes of workout this morning. Yes, I did sit with 10 minutes of my coffee and journaling this morning. Yes, I was able to listen to the music of my choice on my walk this morning or this evening, or it doesn't have to be a 5 a.m. thing at all. Like it just has to be those few minutes. I know that that keeps me kind of in check and be like, no, but you got that. You got your time. And so now this is the time to be fully present here and not be on your phone,
I
you know?
I would say the second part of the reason why self-care is important is our kids learn more by what we do than by what we say.
Mhm.
And so you
Yes.
cannot be helping teenagers navigate through the anxiety of teenage years and teaching them to take care of their own mental health first if you are not first taking care of their mental health. Because if there's nothing for them to, if we, part of, I think, the issue that parents have right now is we don't have models. We don't have models of
Yes.
people that are not doing the mom guilt, that are not doing the guilt trips, that are not doing all of these things. I think that because here's the other thing is that I think if we can tell moms, you are doing self-care for your kids, not just because you will be there for them, but so they will know how to do it themselves, then some moms that are especially big people pleasers and feel like overgivers, you almost kind of trick your brain into telling your brain, "Oh, no, no, I'm doing this so that
I'm
my
not
kids I'm not doing this for
I'm not doing it
me."
for me.
I mean, I would love it if moms would just do it for themselves because they know they need to. And it's like, and this is a great way for me to demonstrate and to model what they
Yeah.
need.
Yeah, and that could be a good starting point for those, people pleaser moms. And absolutely 100% I agree, they learn from modeling just like, whether it's self-care, whether it's the tone, whether it's the words, going out, volunteering, working, even staying at home, anything we're doing is a model for our, you know, little girls and boys to kind of look up to. Because where else are they going to learn? Yes, they're
Mhm.
going to school, but I believe that every kid is homeschooled because of the schooling that we're providing at
Mm,
home is not the academic portion, but it's the life skills that we're
Mm.
teaching. So if we go out and solve every problem for them, we're not teaching problem solving skills. They are
Mm.
actually missing out on that. So if I go and do laundry, for example, I'm just giving my own example in my home, for my teens, then I am kind of depriving them from that skill of learning how to do laundry. And so that's the kind of reframe that, we have to tell ourselves sometimes as moms. And again, that would be like the awkward stage where I'm just like, I don't know if I should, ask or if I should, but then it becomes mechanical, and then it becomes natural, and then they see benefits.
Yep.
They're learning life skills. And it's almost like a proud moment for my kids to be like, yep, I do my own laundry, and that's like, what's the big deal in that? So
Mhm.
there's
Right.
stages, of learning that as well.
Angela, I remember you taught a child in your care how to do laundry. Do you want to share that story? It's
I
very
do.
funny.
I share this in my book. We had an exchange student um one year when my son was a junior, and he was from Brazil, and he came to us about a couple weeks into his stay, or a week or so into his stay, and he's like, "Hey Angela, I have laundry." And I go, "Oh, okay." And I just thought, because I make all my kids start doing laundry at about 11,
Yeah.
I thought that he just didn't know how to run a washing machine. And so I'm like, "Oh yeah, here's where it is, and here's where the laundry, and
Oh,
here's all
it's
this."
also sure American washing machines might be different than
Right.
washing machines in Brazil.
Right,
By
right,
all
right, right.
means, I
No
will
big
give you
deal.
a
Happy, let me
tutorial on
give
how
you
to use this.
instructions.
Yep.
And then you could see on his face.
That's
And
funny.
I go, "Oh, honey, did your mom do your laundry for you?" And he goes, "Yes, ma'am." And I go, "Oh, well, I love you more." Um, which my editor wouldn't let me put in the book. She goes, "That's judgmental." I'm like, "Okay, well, it's actually what I said." Anyway, I said, "Let me teach you how to do it." And I also taught him how to use a grill. I taught him how to cook. I taught him how to use a microwave, even. I don't
How
even
to
think
make
he know.
orange juice.
Stop it. And he then the next year he went to college, and he went a couple hours away from us and actually had the opportunity to come and visit with us. And very cute, because he walked in the door and goes, "Mom, I brought my laundry." But over that weekend, he shared that so many of his teammates were also from Brazil at the community college he went to. And he was a soccer player, and he had to teach all of them how to do laundry. He had to teach all of them
Yeah.
how to cook. He's like, it's just not normal. So this is not just American culture. This was also, at least in his culture as well, that his mom, and I looked it up. His mom was a professional woman. She was not a stay-at-home mom.
Mhm.
And I'm like, moms, we got to take care, we got to teach these skills, because it creates an incompetence in them, and then they feel less than, and they don't know how to
Correct.
navigate the world. And so I say that we are not raising children, we are raising adults. And so what are the
That's true.
life skills that we have to teach them while they live with us, so that they can be a high functioning adult? Because I promise you, at 21, you don't want them coming back asking these questions. And the other thing is, you said that, I love how you said that kids get to the point where they need to begin to do things, and then when they get scared is when they ask us for help, and
Yeah.
that trust has been built. And I love that, how if we see the I don't see the correlation, though, between when they get scared, they ask for help, and they're not cleaning their room, and they're not taking care of things. Help me connect the dots here.
Yeah, so like, in terms of cleaning their room and the mess, it's something that they kind of want all of their, because it goes back to brain development. Okay, so let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
So during the teen years, the brain is still developing. When we look at our teenagers, they look like adults, especially the kids these days. I mean, they, dress like real grown-ups, and they're super tall kids
Uh-huh.
these days. And so they look like adults, but their brain inside is still developing. Specifically, the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for your decision making, is still developing. It's smaller than adults. Now, on the flip side, the back portion of your brain, which has a part called amygdala, it is responsible for impulse behavior. And that is super active and firing, in the teenage years. So now there's a mismatch of two things. The empathy is lacking, decision making is lacking, but the impulse behavior is super high. It's kind of like, I know everything and I know everything better than you. And
Mm.
so, that is really hard as a parent. As a parent, you're going to take that personally, because you're just like, "Oh my god, like that is so rude, and I don't know how I'm raising this child. I'm such a polite person and my child is so
Mm.
rude." But guess what? That child is not like that when they go out. They are super polite, and they're carrying the values that you've been instilling, hardworking mom, you know. But as soon as they come home, they let go of that. They take off
Mm,
that jacket and they're just like, this is my safe place and I can be whatever I want to be. But now, as a mom, you're seeing that side of developmental stage. It is not personal, it's developmental. Now, when they go out and they, encountered a situation and they got scared, they're going to run back or they're going to call you or they're going to text you that this happened, right? If they trust you, if they know that you've got their back and you're not going to be judgy and you're not going to be like, well, I think it's your fault that this happened.
mm,
Instead of that, if we just lent a listening ear, and again, reps, again, building brick by brick, going from awkward to natural, that it's a process. It's not an overnight success story, but it's kind of a slow and steady wins the race type of situation. And when they have that, if they do encounter that scary situation, guess what? They are going to come for you. In terms of the laziness and the mess, that's the brain. And, that's the connection, the emotions. It's more important for me to text my friend than to clean my room in
mm.
this moment. I'll get to I'll get to it. I don't expect my mom to clean my room, but now if my mom can't stand it and she cleans it, that's on her. That's how their brain works because they will get to it in their minds. They're going to get to it.
Mm.
So now it comes to us again, working on that self care, working on the groundedness, learning the tools how to navigate these situations to be able to give clear, specific instructions. It doesn't mean that we're being passive and permissive. It doesn't mean that we're letting them roll over over us. But if we give clear, short, specific instructions about cleaning the room by Saturday morning at 9 a.m. and it's not done, then we're going to have these consequences. This is a collaboration, and we are discussing this together to come up with this. We can write it down. We can sign a contract, whatever we need to do to set it in stone. But this is what's going to happen, and it will live here. And once the room is cleaned by 9 a.m. on Saturday, all the consequences will be gone. So that's kind of how we, put those boundaries in perspective in practical ways so that we can be the parent. We don't necessarily have to be the friend, because we have to hold the boundaries because if we don't teach them, who else will? So it's not like we're giving up our responsibility, but we are doing it in a collaborative way, not in opposition.
Yeah.
It also sounds like that one of those key factors is it's not if somebody one, if you've not set the clear boundary with your child, like that's a little bit tricky to then hold to a boundary that's not been super clear. But two, not responding in a way that can degrade the relationship, not responding, you're so lazy. What are you doing? You don't respect me, etc. Because that almost antagonistic relationship management is not what's going to lead to the trust. To say that I know when push comes to shove, even though I don't want to clean my room, even though my mom and I fight about these things, even though I see things differently than she does and she doesn't know what she's talking about because I obviously know everything, it does when you antagonize and add that kind of fuel to that fire, you don't make a good space for the healthy relationship. You don't leave you make it I talk a lot about you wanna make it easy for other people to be right. This is like my persuasion tactic is that I don't want to make it hard for somebody to agree with me. And if I say, "Well, of course you had this point of view. Isn't it make sense for you to change your mind as you learn more things?" I wanna make it easy for them to agree with me. We want to make it easy for that relationship to be there, and we don't always do that.
I have a
Yeah.
question too because I want to get back to like why does the room need to be clean, right? Like
Mhm.
there's an element of I don't want food in your room. I want you to clean up the trash. But if you're happy with the clothes everywhere, like until you are married. And then maybe you marry somebody that is like that, I guess. And I've
Or a
also,
roommate.
or a roommate, but even a roommate, if it's your bedroom and that's your space. And so I think that for me, I want parents to get to the baseline of why, because like not having food in your room so that you don't attract ants and bugs and all of those things, 100% agree. But
Yeah.
if you can't come up with the real reason why, I made my kids, they had to be able to close the door. You have to be able to close the door because I don't want to see it. Like,
I
it
think
stresses me out.
the real reason why is the mom guilt. What if other people saw that my kids had this room?
Hmm.
What does that say about me? And that
That's right.
is not an ideal place to be at, where whatever
And
your
if
kids are doing says something about
and
you.
if you
I
say
don't
that,
know.
like, if you want
That's
to
right.
have your friends come over, I am not comfortable with your friends coming over and going to your room that is messy. So if you want friends over, then you will have to clean your room. But if they don't have friends over and they're not, anyway, I just think I think it's critical for for people, so they do get to the point of like, so much I think of moms, we make it, everything is about us. Like, it's
Yeah.
tempting to see how my child parents her children, and I have to like, that's not about me. That's about her. That is not about
That's right.
me. And it is
Yes.
so hard.
Yes, and that is hard, and that's the letting go piece
Yep.
that's hard, because we take pride and ownership in everything we do, and we feel like, at some level we own our children, right? And it's that piece where we have to decide, we what is the value we're trying to instill. If we're
Yes.
asking them to do something, what's the point of it? Why?
Yes.
Like, first, and it's like, one of my clients was like, I do so much for my daughter and she just wouldn't even give me a hug. And I'm like, okay, but then you're going in and doing all of this stuff. Like, what was your intention? Right? It comes down to the intention. You're doing this because she's your daughter and you love her. And that's not changing, whether, she's giving you a hug or not. And so the expectation of, getting something done versus like modeling it to,
Mm-hmm.
like, for example, like screen time. I see it all the time. Parents are on their screen and they're yelling for their kids to get off. Like, oh, you're on the screens too much. And I'm just like, I'm really sorry, but like, you have to model what you're,
Yes.
expecting. And if there are certain boundaries in your home, like say no phones at the dinner table, then everyone has to model. Like, there are no phones even for any of the grown-ups either. And if kids don't see that follow through, they're not going to see, a good example of
Yes.
what to do. And so messy rooms and teenagers are something that, like you said, Angela, I mean, you could shut the door. It's whatever solution you come up with, but it has to be done as a team. It has to be, something that a decision was made as a team. Because if you keep on saying, "Oh, you're so lazy, you don't fold your clothes, or you don't put your clothes away, you're so lazy," that guess what? The teen's gonna start believing
But they
that they're
were.
lazy. So it's not going to help the cause of cleaning the room. In addition, it's going to cause all of those negative emotions within you and your child.
That makes so much sense. What if you were to sort of give somebody like some practical steps? They've got a lot of mom guilt that they're experiencing. What do they need to like start? We mentioned self-compassion. Like, what do those things look like that they should start doing if they're experiencing lots of mom guilt or dad
Ye-
guilt for those listening as
y-
well?
yes. So I think step one would be to just kind of like audit your, situation.
Mhm.
Because if you are noticing these guilt feelings coming up in certain situations, because triggers are mirrors. So if you get triggered by something that your child did or your spouse did, then you know that that is something that we have to dig deep into. It's a door. It's a door.
Mhm.
And going back to like some of the moms I talk to, like, they don't remember what their favorite song was. They don't remember what their favorite, activity was. They've given up on their hobbies because they feel like, oh, it's going to be a waste of time. Like, I need to give more to my family, things like that. So start with just like reflecting on what would be something that would fill your cup, you know. And then, even if it's just a minute or two every day of that particular activity, it could be a bath for someone, it could be exercise for another person, it could be a walk, it could be just music, a type of music, it could be painting, art. So, think of those things. And then the next step would be my mantra is connection before correction.
Mm.
And so if you just are about to correct your child about something, as long as it's not a life-threatening situation, as long as they're in a safe space, can we just take a deep breath? And that will turn your reaction into a response.
Mm.
And once you change, slowly dialing it in from your reaction to your response, your child's going to perceive it. They're going to absorb it. They're going to be overjoyed with it. And they're going to be building that trust piece by piece, piece by piece. And your communication, your connection is going to be so much more than that correction and perfection piece.
Love that.
That is so, so good. Thank you so much for just your encouragement and your wisdom to share with us today. I so appreciate it. Where can people find you? Maybe they're in this spot and they're
Yes.
like, these are really good ideas, but maybe I don't really want to do it all alone and I need a partner. Where can they connect with you?
Yes, thank you. Yeah. So they can follow me on Instagram. My page is called at Dr. Juhi. And I've got tons of resources. And if they followed me and DM'd me the word guide, then I can send them a free guide on 30 ways how to connect with their kids without needing any extra time in their day.
That is so good. We'll make sure that we put that in the show notes for you all as well so that it's easy for you to get to. Thank you,
Awesome.
everyone, again for listening and joining the conversation. And until next time, we hope you guys go be freaking awesome.